Good evening. Welcome back to the channel, Health, Wealth, and Wisdom in Black Spaces. I want to talk about just a few minutes, give some time, and talk about this book right here. I've read this book countless times. If you don't read any other book this year in 2026, if you haven't read this book, Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich. It will get you this book, and I'll talk about another book later. The name escapes me. The Millionaire Next Door by Thomas Stanley. But anyway, I'm talking about this book. I read this book, early 90s. I was in Vandenberg Air Force Base at stationed at Vandenberg, and I actually picked up the book, and they used to have those tapes, so you can get them from the library, and you can put them in your car and just listen to them. But the first chapter talks about thoughts or things. I want to just read a few words from it. This is Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich. Great book. It's all about mindset. It'll put you in the right mindset. This is one of these books you want to read every year. Just skim through it, pick a chapter and just read it, because, like I say, it'll get your mind right. It's because wealth starts with a mindset. But the first chapter talks about thoughts or things. The man who thought his way into partnership with Thomas Edison. Truly, thoughts are things, and powerful things at that, when they are mixed with definiteness of purpose, persistence, and a burning desire for their translation into riches or other material objects. Some years ago, Edwin C. Barnes discovered how true it is that men really do think and grow rich. His discovery did not come about at one sitting. It came little by little, beginning with a burning desire to become a business associate of the great Thomas Edison. One of the chief characteristics of Barnes' desire was that he was definite. He wanted to work with Edison, not for him. That's the key. He didn't want to work for him. Observe carefully the description of how he went about translating his desire into reality. He wanted to work with him, not for him. With him, not for him. When this desire or impulse of thought first flashed into his mind, he was in no position to act upon it. Two difficulties stood in his way. He did not know Mr. Edison, and he did not have enough money to pay his railroad fare to Orange, New Jersey. These difficulties were sufficient to have discouraged the majority of men from making any attempt to carry out the desire. But this was no ordinary desire. Like I said, Thomas Edison at the time was a famous man, the inventor and the tramp. He presented himself at Mr. Edison's laboratory and announced he had come to go into business with this inventor. Now think about this. This guy's coming, presenting himself, a nobody, to a famous person and saying, I'm going into business with you. Pretty delusional. And speaking of the first meeting between Barnes and Edison, years later, Mr. Edison said, so he obviously, if Edison, years later, obviously he went in business with him. Years later, he thinking about it, he stood there before me looking like an ordinary tramp. But there was something in the expression of his face which conveyed the impression that he was determined to get what he had come after. I had learned from years of experience with men that when a man really desires a thing so deeply that he is willing to stake his entire future on a single turn of the wheel in order to get it, he is sure to win. I gave him the opportunity he asked for, because I saw he had made up his mind to stand by until he succeeded. Subsequent events prove that no mistake was made. It could not have been the young man's appearance which got him his start in the Edison office, for that was definitely against him. It was what he thought that counted. Kind of like that scene from Pursuit of Happiness when he had the interview and he had to paint off him. He just went to jail, and but he still wanted to go there, so he kept his calm, and he got the position. He got the internship. Barnes did not get his partnership with Edison on his first interview. He did get a chance to work in the Edison office at a very nominal wage, started at the bottom. Months went by. Apparently nothing happened to bring nearer to the coveted goal which Barnes had set up in his mind as his definite major purpose. That's the key there. He had a definite major purpose. And he put himself out there. So don't be afraid to get out of your comfort zone. Me sitting here on this podcast and just posting, I said I was going to post every Tuesday and Saturday. And that's what I'm going to do for the remainder of this year. You got to put yourself, get out your comfort zone. Psychologist, he was constantly intensifying his desire to become the business associate of Edison. He had a burning desire to be a business associate. That's a burning desire. Psychologists have correctly said that when one is truly ready for a thing, it puts in its appearance. Barnes was ready for a business association with Edison. Moreover, he was determined to remain ready until he got that which he was seeking. So he got himself ready. He did not say to himself, "Oh well, what's the use? I guess I'll change my mind and try for a salesman job." But he did say, "I came here to go into business with Edison, and I accomplished this I'll accomplish this if it takes the remainder of my life." He was playing the long game. If I don't get it, I just take the rest of my life. Kind of like what 50 Cent said, "Get rich or die trying." It's just keep going. Long-term marathon. Maybe young Barnes did not know it at the time, but his bulldog determination, his persistence in standing back of a single desire was destined to mow down all opposition and bring him the opportunity he was seeking. When the opportunity came, it appeared in a different form and from a different direction that Barnes had expected. So definiteness of purpose, but the same goal, but he might have to, the way he thought it was going to happen, he had to pivot from that, then pivot from the goal. So sometimes you have to pivot in life. It appeared in a different form. It was like a back door. It was a sly habit of slipping in by the back door. Mr. Edison had just perfected a new office device known at the time as the Edison dictating machine. His salesmen were not enthusiastic over the machine. They did not believe it could be sold without great effort. Barnes saw his opportunity. He saw that opportunity. That's right. You always got to be looking for that opportunity. Up. It had crawled in quietly, hidden in a unusual looking machine, which interested no one but Barnes and his inventor. Barnes knew he could sell it. He suggested this to Edison and promptly got his chance. He did sell the machine. In fact, he sold it so successfully that Edison gave him a contract to distribute and market it all over the nation. Out of that business association, Barnes made himself rich in money, but he did something infinitely greater. He proved that one really may think and grow rich. How much actual cash that original desire of Barnes was worth to him, I have no way of knowing. Perhaps it brought him $2 or $3 million, but the amount, whatever it is, becomes insignificant when it is compared with the greater asset he required in the form of definite knowledge that an intangible impulse of thought can be transmuted into material rewards by the application of known principles. Let me read that again. The knowledge that an intangible impulse of thought, like electricity, can be transmuted into material rewards by the application of known principles. Faith. Barnes literally thought himself into a partnership with the great Edison. He thought himself into a fortune. He had nothing to start with except the capacity to know that he wanted and the determination to stand by the desire until he realized it. That's, like I say, read this book, and it's just like every time you read a book, you're basically you putting those nuggets in your mind. I've read somewhere where Warren Buffett, pretty much 70 to 80% of his day is reading. So when it's time to make a decision, that he can make a decision with good information. It's almost like what Abraham Lincoln, if he got to cut down a tree, if it takes 4 hours, he's going to take 3 hours to sharpen his blade and 1 hour to cut the tree down. So you want to be prepared. That's what it is. When you reading, every time you read a book, you're sharpening that blade to make decisions. The great, I cannot think of his name, Marcus Garvey. His suggestion, I've read his lectures. His suggestion is we should be reading at least 4 hours a day. That's not sure if anybody can read 4 hours a day and get anything done, but you can take your time. When you use the bathroom, take a book in there. When you driving somewhere and you got a little time, you go to the doctor's office, I always have a book in my hand. No matter where, I have a book in my hand everywhere I go. Okay. Once you get a little time, you get 5 or 10 minutes, you waiting somewhere, you waiting in line. If I'm going shopping, me and my wife going somewhere, I always have a book with me. You got to do it. Leaders are readers. So that's how I want to talk to you, about this book. Get it from the library. Like I said, I never try to sell anything on here. Get this book. Go to the bookstore and read it there. Read a few chapters and then put it back on the shelf and come back. But this book is one of the books I go through constantly, just picking up nuggets, because you always can pick up some. And that's it for today, folks. See you again Saturday.